5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, this is how we rock. Friday night, gotta rest, in the morning, hit the block. Shake him down, we go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, this is how we rock. Hey, I'm a workaholic, boy, don't play with me. Hey, no breaks, do this till the death of me. I'm with Elohim, careful what you say to me. Better watch your talk. We been the chosen ones, I heard you claim to be. Yeah. What do you got, hey, what do you got? What do you got, cause talk is cheap. What do you got, you see me say? Yeah, we got that remedy. What do you got, hey, what do you got? Heard you got that kill for me. What do you got, cause I need help? What do you got, cause talk is cheap. So I dedicate to do this every week, yeah. We not moving corners, so they thinking that we weak, yeah. Never get it twisted, ayy, don't sleep. We the sanctified, we pull up to your hood to clean the sheet, yeah. And I'm blessed, Wolfie on the crest, yeah. All I do is raving, praying for the rest. To the east, from the west, on a quest, never rest. About that work, dog, about it, I'm obsessed, yeah. Sabbath morning, rise and shine, hit the block, make it hot, shake him down, we go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, this is how we rock. Friday night, gotta rest, in the morning, hit the block, shake him down, we go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, this is how we rock.
Hit the block, make it hot, they be shocked, that's a wop. Watch a doctorate, head chop, body drop, get the mop. This a jam, this a bop, for the flock, top of top. How much love, that's a lot, on the quest, not a yacht. Got a Glock, it don't pop, that's a prop. Nigga stop, ain't no fear in the mirror, check your spirit watch. We just pick a corner, we any money more. From here to California, we pull up at Issachar corner. Kamikaze sliding like conveyor bells. If you try to play the prophet, you gon' play yourself. Saturday to day, we on the way with hell. Big soldier, we take orders like okay, what else? Check the stats, all facts, never cap. We be everywhere we at, on the map, in the trap. Me and Ja, back to back, boots black, script strap. Listens with that, this and that. Friday night, take a nap. We wake up, it's a wrap.
Sabbath morning, rise and shine, hit the block, make it hot, shake him down. We go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, this is how we rock. Friday night, gotta rest, in the morning, hit the block, shake him down, we go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, this is how we rock. Sabbath morning, rise and shine, hit the block, make it hot, shake him down, we go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, this is how we rock. Friday night, gotta rest, in the morning, hit the block, shake him down, we go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, this is how we rock.
Yeah. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We going precept per precept, per line per line. We going precept per precept, per line per line. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We going precept per line per line. The most I dropping them dimes, don't run out of time.
Dropping dimes like a quarterback. Ain't no looking back. Turn it to a pillar of salt, no tasting that. Ain't got no time to sleep, a full-blown insomniac. I'd rather read and breathe, I'm a Bible maniac. Leave your problems at the door, here's a luggage rack. Maybe you didn't understand, let me double back. Your sin is what's leaking, your lust is what's reeking. It's clogging your arteries, now your heart is stop beating. You come back every now and then, your past repeating. Prepared also for temptation, yours preheating.
Ask the apostles, don't understand? Then ask the apostles. Taking it back like fossils, all of the prophets are black, that's awesome.
Yeah, all these nations, they'll catch heart attack. When they realize that Christ is black, the apostles is black, the Israelites is black. Yeah, the most are coming back for we.
We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We going precept per line per line.
the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. They grabbing their chest like Sanford or son, not the Pledge of Allegiance. They see us in concourse, this a conquest. You need a passport to go con, I mean a Congo. Not Monopoly, but I'm past go. Checkmate with a castle. Border blue with them tassels. Timothy is in these last days. If they could, they'll stone us. When we die, we'll die kings, and then await to a dynasty. When you die, you'll die asleep, and then await to calamity. Cut up from the root, not beer, but I'm a brute. Stop sinning, keep the truth. Idleness and idolatry. Witchcraft as rebellion. Revelers and extortioners. No shame for you covered us. No pity for you murderers.
Subsidy campaign, fire burn the murderers, the thieves, the rapists, fire burn all of you, the witch doctors. Yo, we don't deal with them things this up.
We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We going precept per line per line. We going precept per line per line. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We going precept per line per line. The most I dropping them dimes, don't run out of time.
And what you see is game over. For all you vagabond, heathen man, Babylon, finna get blazed over. The chariots looking like Range Rovers. You nervous now cause you know the Lord spoken. The kingdom on the way, we gon' enjoy it for you. I will tell you how it is, but I hate to spoil it for you. We taking back our crown in our land from these wicked men who thought that they can just devour us. We building back our nation from the ground up. I'm a God on the earth, now let me power up. These heathens, they sick to the stomach, I can crush them. Cause they didn't know the law empowered us. No evil will prevail against the children, but instead recompense due to the sinners. Between me and you, here's the difference. We got the ball in our hands, and this right here a game winner.
We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We going precept per line per line. We going precept per line per line. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We giving heart attacks, imagine that. We going precept per line per line. The most I dropping them dimes, don't run out of time.
If I call on you, Jaja, I know you'll be there. And it no matter what the circumstances, I know you'll be there. So I don't worry myself, nah. I don't worry myself, nah. So I don't worry myself, nah. I don't worry myself, nah.
There's no need to worry. Your love is merciful. Love him and he'll love you. He'll show you what to do. Don't say that you can't make it. Just hold the faith and true. And God will make you stronger. And he will see you through.
If I call on you, Jaja, I know you'll be there. And it no matter what the circumstances, I know you'll be there. So I don't worry myself, nah. I don't worry myself, nah. So I don't worry myself, nah. I don't worry myself, nah. Need fire to purge gold, yeah. For these impurities inside your soul, yeah. Some get burned and they wanna make haste. You can't survive it, no weak faith. Can't survive that, you can't. Slow down, this race is not for the swift. See many giving up and then I see many shape-shift. Stand firm in a this, don't make yourself drift. And two is better than one, can me can't catch you if you slip. So don't you give up on me now. Everything on the line, oh yeah, we need each other now. I see devils and demons surround. No matter what happens, don't let them take your crown. If I call on you, Jaja, I know you'll be there. And it no matter what the circumstances, I know you'll be there. So I don't worry myself, I don't worry myself, so I don't worry myself, I don't worry myself.
There's no need to worry. Your love is merciful. Love him and he'll
Your show is scheduled to start in 32 seconds.
Don't say that you can't make it. Just hold the faith and true. And I will make you stronger. And he will see you through.
If I call on you, Jaja, calling. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you'll be
Your
there.
show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Power hour, it's the what? Power hour, it's the who? Power hour, yeah, yeah. Blacks, Hispanics, and Natives. Power hour, it's the what? Power hour, it's the who? Power hour, yeah, yeah. Blacks, Hispanics, and
Every Saturday morning you need to be tuning in. Wake up, get crust out your eyes. We about to go live, so come get the schooling in. About our oppression, we answer the questions like how do we get out this lower state? We let the scripts prophesy. We bringing the Bible to life so that you relate. The world thinks we're rejects, but that word we reject. Watch and we'll show you precept upon precept. Line upon line, the scripts say we're the greatest, and they can't debate it. Salvation is only for the blacks, Hispanics, and natives.
power hour, it's the what? Power hour, it's the who? Power hour, yeah, yeah. Blacks, Hispanics, and Natives. Power hour, it's the what? Power hour, it's the who? Power hour, yeah, yeah. Blacks, Hispanics, and power hour, it's the what? Power hour, it's the who? Power hour, yeah, yeah. Blacks, Hispanics, and Natives. Power hour, it's the what? Power hour, it's the who? Power hour, yeah, yeah. Blacks, Hispanics, and
Shalom, shalom. Welcome to the Power Hour Plus edition. I'm Captain Yashua.
Shalom, welcome, Captain Apario.
Shalom, buenos noches, Israel. Yo soy Capitana Marías.
Wow, my man been
Me llamo
practicing that.
Capitana Marías. Yo soy del tribu de Levi.
He was at Calais. Is this correct? Is this correct?
Hey, you know what? They were on the comment board calling me a conquistador, so I figured let's get them what they want.
Hey, they call me that all the time. Wait a
Fire.
And who are you, little man?
Oh, man.
I am the mighty.
That's right.
Officer Zacchaeus from the mighty tribe of Judah.
Hey, so
Bring it out.
when I was in Catholic school,
Yeah.
Sister Mary Pies, I still remember her name. I was in second grade. I still remember this freaking trauma. And she would make us sing a song about Zacchaeus, and it went like this.
Oh, God, don't do it.
There once was a man in Jericho named Zacchaeus.
I don't remember that song.
There once was a man in Jericho named Zacchaeus.
But it's true.
And they said, and Zacchaeus, he was small, and Zacchaeus, he couldn't see. And the Lord said, Zacchaeus, come down from the tree. Wow.
Hey,
talk about indoctrination.
Who gave you that name?
Bones,
50 plus
bro.
freaking years later.
Who gave you that name?
Sorry,
was
folks.
That was a brother. He come from the tribe of Issachar.
What's his Hebrew name?
The name whisperer.
Issachar.
the self-proclaimed name whisperer.
It's true though. It's true.
Hey, and if you didn't sing it right, they had real rulers.
Well,
because
because he was running around with Joshua. And then they were like, there's going to be confusion when Captain Joshua gets here.
I still go by it, you know.
Well, we know why you go by that.
Why is that?
Some guy named Mr. Harley told me.
Oh! Ooh. Okay. I think
no, Joshua
with
J. Harley. Get it right.
Joshua J. Harley.
85 at Gmail.
That's right. Wow. Putting his whole business
Whoa.
on.
You know what I'm saying?
Whoa now.
I didn't do it.
The officer is only an inch shorter than me, but
hold up.
Those of y'all an inch and some change. Those of y'all who know me know that I'm of the stature of probably Zacchaeus biblically as well.
Yeah, we the same height, same centimeters.
Now we are not.
Centimeters. Wow.
Don't even, bro, because we've done the height test.
He said
on more than one occasion.
Yeah, you're right. Centimeters that add up to 1 inch.
Listen. Let your brother feel good, bro. It's not very often that I meet people shorter than me.
I'll take one for the team.
All right, thank you.
Hey, you know what? The scripture says that we would get smaller in stature. So
you don't take one for the team.
Zacchaeus is probably like 6'6"
for the team. You take half, not a full one.
Yeah,
take a half, brother.
Dang. Let's focus on the show. What's the show about, Cap?
Oh,
what
okay.
is the show about?
Right, let's focus on the show.
Bring it out.
Oh, our sister Stephanie's watching.
Yeah, this ain't the Power Out Comedy Hour.
She said she's from her sick bed. I pray you're all right, sister.
Yes, pray you're all right. Prayers going up, sister.
All right, so that you can, the Lord heal you quickly and speedily. I know she's been consistently watching us on the Wednesday evening show. So, all praise to the Most High. We're here for another edition of the Power Hour Plus,
right.
and we've been talking about the native slave trade, right? We've been hitting on that, and those of you who watch our Saturday broadcast, we've actually been broadcasting for 3 years. 3 years.
3 years and 6 months.
Wow.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
It was right after we came back from Puerto Rico.
And we cover a multitude of different topics and things like that. But it, we hit a lot of stuff in the news and different things like that. Mm-hmm. But lately the Spirit's been on us to work on bringing out stuff with the curses, right? Spinning out stuff with the curses, especially in relation to the slave trade. It was prompted by the so-called Thanksgiving that came out, and we said we're going to continue to bring things out in regards to that. We definitely appreciate your support. If you like the edification that's been coming out, we implore you to subscribe, like, share, continue to do so, comment, all right? We have classroom teachings, camp teachings that come out of the camp, and we definitely would appreciate the support. We're broadcasting out of Phoenix, Arizona here, IUIC Phoenix, and we definitely need more participation for people to share and push stuff. And, I was reading one of the comments today, and someone was talking about how, there's always so much edification that comes out. They don't understand why some of the views are lower than, like other channels. I said, well, I know why. And it's for stuff like this, because there's a lot of people that don't think the Northern Kingdom is what they are. Hey, look at my new Bible ribbons. You saw that? I bought this little thing.
They look nice.
I need extra ribbons sometimes. Instead of having 8 fingers into the scripts, now I can set up my precept upon precept. So I got 8 ribbons that come with it now. So boom.
Hopefully those ribbons bump our views.
I hope so. Will the ribbons bump the views? Let's see. So we on Saturday's show we were talking about the encomiendas, right? I'm gonna pull that stuff up, and we were bringing out just the different ways and different methods that we were in slavery, and pointing out how if you know your Bible, the Bible bears witness, right, that the so-called Hispanic, so-called Native Indigenous over here are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of, right? You talk about those lost 10 tribes. I almost was going to, I like that article that Zacchaeus posted. I almost was going to talk about that a little bit, but I said, that could come out in another context. I forgot that we were going to go into the Encomienda more. And we got to talk about these different processes of slavery. And I also think this is one of the reasons why there's this misnomer out there that the Hispanics were not in slavery, that the Native Americans were not in slavery, is that they didn't call it slavery.
That's right.
They called it these other words. And I think that's part of the issue. So our aim is to bring out some of that history to bring it to your awareness, all right? So you can bring this type of stuff out. I'm going to pull up these links if you guys want to say anything to that. I'm trying to pull these articles up as I get this ready on my end to read it. I don't know which one I want to start with first.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true what you're saying. I mean, I guess, yeah, they called it by a different name, but also because it was so you got to understand that the Southern Kingdom's slavery from Africa to here is more recent, a lot more recent. There's 100. What is it? 1492 to 1619, approximately.
Yep.
Is what 8 is 15.
127.
Yeah,
years.
something like that. 127 year gap in between, according to documentation. But in actuality, we know that included in that 1492 slavery, that Southern Kingdom was involved in there too. So
give me Ezekiel 3 verse 11. Bring that out. There you go. Flip it over. Flip it and reverse it. And scare and skip them, yep. And scare and skip them, yep. Ezekiel 3 verse 11. Bring that out.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 3 and verse 11. And go, get thee to them of the captivity.
It says, go and get thee to them of the captivity. We know who are they of the captivity based upon the signs and for the wonders that the Most High put in place in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. The them of the captivity is speaking about all 12 tribes. Now, like how Captain Joshua said, our people are ignorant to the fact that the Northern Kingdom was in slavery because they didn't call it slavery, because they want to continue to break our bands asunder. Read on.
Unto the children of thy people.
The children of thy people. So this gospel was meant to be spread to our people, the 12 tribes of Israel, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Read.
And speak unto them, and tell them, thus saith the Lord God.
Thus saith the Lord God, that all 12 tribes went into captivity, some by other names, and which is what we're going to bring out today, using these other references as resources to prove what the Bible is saying. Thus saith the Lord. This curses fit the 12 tribes of Israel and no other nation on this planet Earth.
Whether they will hear or whether they will forbear.
So we plant the seed, and then that's it. It's the Most High that gives the increase. But the resources are here. The information is here. You got to pick it up. At one time, our people were being killed for reading. Now our people will die rather than read. It's insane.
Let me show you how that's true, just personally with me. I knew about the truth and the Israelites back in 1985. They used to be down in downtown Times Square, where the ball is dropped. And I walked by them bunch of times, and nothing that they said to me resonated with me at all. Okay, in fact, I used to call them Earth, Wind, and Fire because that's like the garments, they look, back then. Unbeknownst to me, years later, would I wake up. So time and chance to us all, number one. And number two, all right, many are called, a few are chosen. So you may hear this and still not, repent. But more importantly, he's going to choose the time. That was enough seed so that when it was brought to me by my brother, Captain Joshua, everything clicked quick.
You were able to receive it.
Quick. In fact, but it's funny, though. Just real quick, and I'll
go ahead.
I was actually, because my mother had told me that he was with some people called Israelites. And then it started clicking. I said, wait a minute, the ones that back in the 80s that I used to see in the street? I said, nah. I said, hell no. So I actually went to the house.
You said, but they're black.
Yeah. I believe our grandfather had just passed away, and I went over there to his house. So we were just getting together and stuff like that. But I also had the intention of talking him out of it. And I was just weird how it happened, because I was like, hey, so you... And it's like the spirit got on him, and he said, look at these books. Puerto Ricans are in the Bible. And I was like, I stayed shut. You talk about the spirit.
What's your favorite scripture, Cap?
My favorite scripture? Oh, I got a bunch.
Because you have one in Proverbs.
Oh, man's goings of the Lord.
That's
how can he
right.
understand his own way?
That's
Proverbs,
right.
Proverbs 5:24. Yeah. 5:21. 5:21.
2024.
Yeah. Because there's two of them. There's 5:21 and 2024. Yeah.
Right. All praise.
So that's a little bit of my testimony, man. So based on what you said, you don't know. I mean, heck, trust me, I'll be honest with you. Hell no, I wasn't ready back then. I would have fell out with the quickness. I had too much sin on me.
Yeah, Most High knew when to.
Yeah, I wasn't ready.
When we would receive it. So
I was not ready.
You mentioned the bands asunder, and these are like my two favorites that I
Absolutely.
got. So I got to bring it out because not everybody may understand that.
It's the spark.
So actually, first let's start at Psalms 83, and I'm going to show you part of this crafty counsel. There's another reason why it's out there: the assumption that Hispanics did not go into slavery on slave ships. We've been bringing that out over the past few weeks, so that stuff is debunked.
It's so ignorant. Right? It's so ignorant people to even assume that.
Man, sometimes some of the stuff I see is just funny as hell. Like, it don't faze me at all anymore. I was looking at another comment today, and they're like, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but is that a white man teaching? And I'm like, God, Lord
Oh, you
Jesus.
know what? I saw that comment. Yeah,
I said, Lord Jesus. I did a Stephen. I said, Forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Yeah, right.
I said, don't lay this to their charge because they don't understand.
And you know what? He was saying that while he's being stoned to death. So,
You're right.
how much more should we be in the spirit that someone says something ignorant on a damn comment board on social media?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, he was saying that too because I was reading that a couple of weeks back. Yep. Damn.
Yep.
And it says, and after that was when the final rock stone came.
Boom.
That's it. All right, let me get Psalms 83. Start from the top on that. We got to talk about this because you got to understand, we often say it, but we don't necessarily read it all the time. But we got to bring it out. Psalms 83 and yeah, start at 1.
10:4. The book of Psalms, chapter 83 and verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace. And be not still, O God.
Right, so this is something that should be in our prayers, right, when we say this. And I'll tell you right now, we're not going to keep silence on this. Through the Spirit of the Most High, right, just like he uses the Edomites and the other nations as his sword against us,
That's
all right? He's utilizing his people, the Israelites, to bring this stuff out. So we're not going to keep silence on that topic. We're going to continue to talk about that stuff. He says, we're not going to hold our peace. We're going to bring this information to the forefront. Come on.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
Right, because the reason we cannot is because they are always on the prowl, right? Like the scripture in the New Testament says, Satan lying in wait, okay? They are always on the prowl speaking against us, creating division between us, right? Speaking lies against us, so saying we're anti-Semitic when we bring this stuff out, using our own people against us. I was watching the video, the 5-10 minutes of it, of that apologist brother. I
didn't get a chance to watch that.
He rolls with that other dude, the Edomite, that's infatuated with us, and so that's why he was out there teaching on a pulpit. They think that's the secret sauce, that if they go to the street and stand up there and preach their lies, that's going to increase their ministry of Satan.
You know why that's not? Because there's no spirit in that.
Right. That's not the secret sauce. That's not the secret sauce.
Because
oh, snap.
Because it says, hey, we just read it in Ezekiel. We just read it. It said, and tell them, thus saith the Lord.
Right.
They ain't saying, thus saith the Lord,
right,
because...
No. And it's not thy people, well, for the most part.
Yeah, right. And then the scripture says that the secrets were being revealed to his prophets. His prophets are only the Israelites.
Right. So they can't break it out. But as I was listening to that dude speak, but here's the point, the reason I bring it out, because I don't want to digress with that. We can talk about that another time, because a lot of soldiers still haven't answered my question on that.
Yeah.
We can talk about that another time. It was Jake. It was a Jake, or seemingly, right, if you go by appearance, right? But it was a Jake brother. And that's what they do. So that's another part of their crafty counsel, to create division amongst us, right? So it says, read verse 2 again.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
Thine enemies make a tumult. And part of that tumult is speaking those lies, saying we're anti-Semitic, trying to stain our name. What do they say? What's it called? What's the term that they use? Defamation. Trying to defame us, right? Defamation, libel, they do it in writing. Defamation is when it's verbal, right? And they try to say so many horrible things about the Israelites, right? So it says our enemies make a tumult. Come on.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
They that hate thee have lifted up the head. We got to realize that there are our enemies out there hate us. There are people that hate us. They don't love us. They hate us, these other nations, right? Come on. This is the part that I'm trying to get to.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones.
In the upper echelons, in the deep, dark recesses of, you want to call it the deep state, you want to call it all the conspiracy names, Trilateral Commission, the elite, whatever it is, right? That in that upper echelon of those world rulers, right? They take crafty counsel against us, the Israelites.
And trust me, they know this Bible from the perspective of who the truth is.
Satan quoted scriptures. When he was tempting Christ in the wilderness, Satan was quoting scriptures to him. Perverting scriptures. Satan was perverting scriptures for Christ to tempt him to jump and do that stuff. Right. Which is the same stuff that they do. And it says they have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and they have consulted against thy hidden ones. And what is their aim of this crafty counsel? Read.
They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation.
They do not want us to be united. So the Captain Amariah was saying, Captain Amarias was saying, right, that they cut our bands asunder. They don't want us to be together. They don't want us to be united. And part of their thing is that they've done things like this, where they slavery by another name, create divisions so that we can't even come together amongst ourselves. Christianity, politics, science, all the different mechanisms. And it's not just one. Their approach is multifaceted.
There's no unification if you tell someone you're Peruvian, you're Mexican, you're Haitian, you're Jamaican, rather than you're all the Israelites.
Right.
There's no unification if you don't know who you are.
Right.
And you know what's interesting? It's somewhat geographic specific too. Because in New York, right, Judah and Ephraim, Southern and Northern Kingdom, we're tight.
Yeah, we don't have those. We don't have that.
We don't
beef like
have that. Yeah, like you say it, it's like okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's typically when you go to other states, Midwest, South, that they don't accept that.
Yeah, that's like out here, right? And for Judah out this way, all Hispanics are Mexican.
Yeah.
That's right.
They don't. I'll tell you, when I was in the military, like in basic training, they were like, "What's a Puerto Rican?" They didn't even know what a Puerto Rican was. They were
Bro,
like,
you must have went with some people that didn't have like geography or social studies. Like, what the hell is this?
Bro, I don't know, man.
How do you not know what a Puerto Rican is?
Maybe because basic for me wasn't Texas. I don't know. Maybe if you were on the coast, you get more of the people on the coast.
No, because I was in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Right.
Say no more, fam.
Right. So basically, it's a large part of Middle America that's there more than anything else. I don't know.
Say less.
I'll speak for Judah. We were just a very uneducated here in America. We'll put it like that.
Okay. All right. So read verse 4 again.
Verse 4. They have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation."
Come on.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
So they don't want that name of Israel to be in remembrance. And that unification, those two sticks coming together to be one, every device that they put out there is to prevent this, right? It's like listen, when J. Edgar Hoover said black unity is the biggest threat to the country, see, black people just think black people, so-called black people think black people. When I think of that, I'm thinking Israelite unity, and Israelite unity includes both tribes. So if black unity, and you're just talking about Judah, Southern Kingdom is powerful. Can you imagine if black unity is powerful? How much more powerful is the 12 tribes coming together?
Bro, y'all have 10 parts.
I'll tell you how much more powerful that is. We rule the world.
That's right.
Bring it out.
There it is.
The 12 tribes come together under this standard, right?
Chills.
Keeping the commandments and the faith of Christ, we rule the world.
What else? Keep going. This is good. This is good.
That's why that prophesied. That's what's going to happen.
This is good. Keep going. You got me all fired
was
up
that
now.
a bomb? That was like a staticky bomb.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was static.
That was like we were in the bomb shelter, and I heard the bomb like 30 miles away.
Yeah.
No, that just sounded like the mic was messed up.
It sounded like saying,
He's doing it harder because he really
That's
was.
a little better.
Yeah,
That's a little better.
You trying to tell me something, producer?
Hey, I told the producer to get a soundboard. I showed him some stuff. I gave him the website where we bought the equipment. Hey, you know what? I appreciate your efforts, officer. I appreciate your efforts, producers.
That's another Issachar right there.
That is another Issachar. I do. I genuinely appreciate your efforts. At least we have some sound effects. At least we have some. Let me get
That's
some.
actually him and the other guy making a noise too.
That's probably them back there. Like, you remember Police Academy? You remember Police Academy with the...
They were practicing that before we got here.
Psalms 2 and 1. And then we're going to get into some of the history. Psalms 2 and 1, and then we'll go to Zechariah, and we'll get into some of the history.
The book of Psalms, chapter 2 and verse 1. Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing?
Right, so it says, why? The heathen means other nations that are not Israelites, right? So when it says the people, it's speaking about Israel. It says, why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? Come on.
The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying...
So this is basically telling you the same thing like we just read in Psalms 83, where it says that they take crafty counsel. So it says, listen, the kings of the earth, they set themselves on what? On making sure we're not a nation, that the name of Israel is not in remembrance. And it says, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying...
Verse 3, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us.
Come on. I'll come back to verse 3. Come on.
He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision.
This is a fixed fight, brothers and sisters. All we have to do is play our parts, right? Don't go in there. You don't get selected for a movie or a TV show, right? And you're playing guy number 1, and you try to be the main character, right? You're playing guy in the background who sneezes, and you want to cough and steal the show.
You're the guy that just goes like
right.
this.
Right, because sometimes I'm talking about, because that's how it is in the script sometimes. Guy number 1 comes in and says, you remember when you're doing that stuff, right? It says if everybody plays their part and plays their position and do what is required of them, the Most High is going to laugh. Because as desperate as it may seem at times, we know that what the end result is. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's easy to forget that in the midst of everything that's going on, that we already won.
Right.
We already won.
It's a fixed fight.
That's why Paul, people don't understand. When Paul says to glory in tribulation, it's to have that in mind, that the fight's fixed. Right. You won. Blessed is he that endures to the end. Just endure that thing. You already won. So give glory to God.
Yeah, you have to see the end of the movie at the beginning of the movie, right?
That one actually kind of caught me off guard and scared me a little bit.
Yeah, this guy scared me, yeah.
He raised the volume. I don't know. He did something to it.
Okay. All right.
No, they got real swords.
Oh, he got a real sword. They were back there. No, that was 2 kitchen
That's
knives.
guy number 1.
That was 2 kitchen knives in the back.
He said that was guy number 1.
That's what that was. Go back and read verse 3 now, so we can give the sense.
Verse 3 at Psalms 83.
Psalms 2. No, you could drop Psalms 83.
Yes,
Psalms
sir.
2.
Stay in spirit, bro.
Verse 3. Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us.
So let me show you how this is saying the same thing that Psalms 83 said. It says, let us break their bands asunder and cast their cords, right? So from us. Zechariah 11 and
14.
Hold on now. Sometimes I like to go a little up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, so let's start at 14. Let's just get to the point so we get into the reading.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 11 and verse 14. And the Lord said unto me.
That's not Zechariah 11:14.
Zechariah chapter 11, verse 14. Then I cut asunder mine other staff, even bands, that I might break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel.
So it says even bands, and my Bible has bands capitalized, letting you know that it's signifying. You ever heard of the Band of Brothers?
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
A band of brothers. That's the brotherhood. It says the cutting of the bands asunder is that I might break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. This is why when you read Ezekiel 37, it talks about the stick coming back together, right? Mm-hmm. So it's talking about that brokenness that they did. That thing is going to be unified. It says that their intent is to break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel, between southern kingdom and northern kingdom. They want to keep that. See, the Lord in the prophecy of the split meant that thing for good. That was God's doing. That thing happened that way. But now in these last days, we are supposed to come back together. Actually, when you start reading from when Christ was on the scene, that was part of why he was getting on the Pharisees so much, because they were not dealing right with the people. Remember when you read John 4 with the sister by the well, they were like, hey, you guys don't talk to us. The hell you doing talking to us, basically, right? And Christ would say, hey, that's over with now. Right. I'm here to tell y'all that got to stop, and y'all got to come back together. So now go back to Psalms 2 and read 2 and 3 so we can see now that we got the definition.
Give them the sense
of bands. Come on.
Psalms 2 and verse 2. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord.
Hey, and notice, remember, verse 1 said, and the people imagine a vain thing, meaning that they have some of our brothers and sisters that hate their own people, and they've recruited them and enlisted them into this endeavor, some knowingly and some ignorantly, right? So he says, let's cut them off. Come on.
And against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us.
Right? So he said, let us break their bands. Let us break their brotherhood, right, asunder, right? So boom, just split it. And then cast their cords from us. And then cast them from us. We're going to deal. This is why you'll have ignorant statements like, well, cops aren't killing Hispanic people like they are black people. Yes, they are. It's just not reported in the media the way it is.
That's right.
In fact, Native Americans out of all the tribes are killed by cops more. I got the article.
Right.
Everything that so-called African Americans have dealt with we have dealt with as well. It's just been that they do it more covertly, and it's part of that crafty counsel. You have to acknowledge that. You have to accept that to be able to open up your understanding as you receive this thing.
If anything, that should increase your faith to let you know that they are trying to break our bands asunder. That should increase your faith that the Bible is a true book. It should validate your faith versus making you question it.
Right.
To say that you got to be Afro this or Afro that. It's ignorance.
It's supreme ignorance. You're absolutely right. All right, so let's go. That's it on that. I'm good. Unless you got something you want to bring out, officer.
Nah, go ahead, Cat.
Yeah, you sure?
No.
Spirit, Cat.
Mighty tribe of
Mighty.
Bro,
mighty.
bro, you said two mighties.
Well, he said one for himself because there's only so much mighty in his
vainglorious.
in his earthly vessel that he can contain. There's only so much mightiness.
Have you ever called yourself mighty?
I gave honor to the tribe of Judah.
No. Captain of 3,000, senior captain of IUIC. You've never Dang.
No, I don't.
Hey, listen, it's a humble spirit.
Captain, that's it. I don't give myself honor.
It's a humble spirit that pierces the clouds. Keep that in mind, all right, bro?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, that was better. That was closer.
Fix the mic.
The artillery was aligned better.
You got to do the one that goes
better range.
I think you got to do that one for like the real deep stuff when we drop like a real nugget because it's like let it marinate, let it marinate, boom. Right, and then the sudden bomb could be that. He said, Judah. That's right.
I think I'll be Gad next week.
That's where Christ comes from. Judah. That's right.
You did good. I like it.
That was a good one.
That's good.
Oof.
Fierce.
Oof.
Okay.
That was a fierce one. That's Christ tribe. We all from Judah.
That's right.
I'm Judah.
No, my wife would tell you that she's Judah all day.
Let me stop. No. We need strong Northern Kingdom brothers to step up and do the one. But I say strong, I mean with the diligence to continue
Bro,
to do
y'all
the
got
work.
10 parts.
Right.
10 parts belong to the Northern Kingdom of Israel, man. Come on.
They're coming. They're coming.
Okay. Let me get
They're
the
here.
one from Magoosh.com. How did Liam score 35? Show me. So we're gonna jump into the Encomienda again. If you watch the Saturday show, we were speaking about this, but the Power Hour is much more intense. We just drop bombs, boom, 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 right, and then we leave you kind of waiting for more. So
Just like that too, boom, boom.
So
boom.
we got the plus where we could go into a little more detail, right? So the Encomienda system, all right. So this is from a school thing. I first learned about the Encomienda system in taking Latin American studies as a writing intensive when I went back to college, and I was already pretty ingrained in the truth at that point. I was probably like 4 years in, so I was like real passionate about learning. I figured, listen, if I got to take a writing intensive, let me take it in something that I'm gonna enjoy. So I figured, hey, let me take some Latin American studies, see what they got to say. And I was shocked at how much was not sugar-coated, like in the text that the professor picked and things like that. And I was like, wow, they're really not trying to. I said, all right, all praise. So I did really well in that class because of the zeal that I had for it, because I was writing stuff up and whatnot. So, and this is when I first started learning about these type of things in detail, right? I knew about slavery, but I didn't know the other names that it was called, right? So the Encomienda system was a labor system instituted by the Spanish crown in the American colonies, all right? So, again, letting you know that the Spaniards, the conquistadors came, right? And look at how they call it a labor system, right? This is why I say slavery by another name. They call it a labor system, all right? So this is where some of the text starts to get funny. But we're going to dissect that a little bit, and you'll see that it was just slavery by another name. In this system, a Spanish encomendero was granted a number of native laborers who would pay tribute to him in exchange for his protection. We didn't need no protection from anybody until they got here.
Yeah, right.
We didn't need protection. And now all of a sudden we need protection once they come on the scene? Protection from what? From more of the heathens that were coming? So it was like, listen, choose which master you want. You want the Portuguese masters? You want the British masters? You want the French masters? Or you want the Spanish masters? And where this differed from slavery was in that the slaves were tied to the land and not the person. That's the only difference. That's the only difference in this system, and that to them disqualifies it as slavery. So meaning, if the Smiths were slave owners, the Smiths always owned those slaves. Here, if Gonzalez was the slave owner, when Gonzalez was replaced, whoever replaced him in that parcel of land that he was given, those would now become his slaves. So it wasn't like it was through the families, right? And one of the reasons they did this under this system was to give away the land. And with it, so I'm jumping ahead a lot. It was to give away the land. I'll remind me to mention how they gave away the land, and that's how this system came apart. All right, came to fruition. So it says Encomienda system. So that's like the question. So okay, it says in the early 16th century, the Spanish crown set up the Encomienda system in the Americas to divide up the American Indian labor force in order to aid the development of their mining economy. So now we've brought out over previous shows how we were also in the cotton fields. We were also, on plantations side by side with our brothers. We've gone over that. If this is your first time joining us and you haven't seen the show recently, go back a few episodes and you start from the beginning, and we've covered all that, right? And I'm talking about not just the Wednesday. Check out the Sabbath broadcast, which is only available on our Facebook page, the Saturday broadcast. And you'll see that we covered some of these things, all right? So it says, basically, this thing came about because they said, hey, we need to divide up this Indian labor force to aid in development of the mines. And let me tell you, the mining economy is still strong today in South America. Again, I often think of that movie, The End of Poverty, and they talk about how people would die in the mines because they had to sleep, live, like they wouldn't see the sunlight. They were on 6 months rotations in the mines. And if you survived the 6 months, you got to come out for a few weeks, and then you went back in to the mines. So they didn't see the light of day. They slept down there, they ate down there, they lived down there. And this is, I'm talking about now. This is stuff they still do over there. So it says, under this system, a Spanish conquistador or another prominent male Spaniard, known as an encomendero, was granted the labor of a certain number of Native Americans living in the area. So, for example, they basically came. Let me give you an example. So this is like if you used the house example. So I'm going to use the house example a few shows ago. Your house is 4,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. They come in and they say, oh, this is our house now. Okay, Bobby and Susie, you were on the up floor. That's 2,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. So we're going to give this to Juan Carlos de la Ponce or whatever, right? De la Ponce. And mom and dad were on the downstairs, and we're going to give the downstairs, including mom and dad, to Hernan Cortez. All right, here you go. This is your land, right? So basically, you know how they say we were tribal and we had different groups of tribes here? If you were a tribe that lived on that land that they decided to divvy up, by their right, not only was the land theirs, but so were the people that lived there.
That sounds a lot like slavery.
Yes. So what they did is they called it vassals. So it was based on there's another it was based on the feudal system. And if you remember your history classes, right, the feudal system was basically a very rough caste system where you had peasants and lords, and that was it. And so what they did was they came and they divvied up the land, right? So they were granted a labor of certain. So their thing was, not only are we going to give you this land, right? This is basically a twist on when Bishop's been bringing out recently how they incentivized them with money and stuff and land to come over. The difference here was not only did they give them money and resources, they said, hey, we want you to work this land, and then you're going to pay taxes back to Spain from the profits that you get from working this land. And as part of the arrangement, we're going to give you the land and the free labor to do so. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did in the form of slavery. So it says the encomendero provided the laborers protection from warring tribes. They always got to throw that in there. We did just fine without them, even though, because I'm not saying we weren't warring. We like that now.
Yeah, right.
Scripture tell you from whence come wars, right? From among ourselves. We beef over stuff now. I'm talking about brothers and sisters in the truth that are believing come in and beef over stupid stuff now. So that's a distractor that they throw in there to try to make it seem like we were savage.
When you read in the first 5 books of Moses, there's laws about how to deal with your brother. If there's some kind of disputes and it turns into a physical altercation, there's laws on how to restore each other. As far as if someone's unable to labor for themselves, then you labor for them and take care of them. It's kind of like, what's it called? Like light duty or workman's comp, basically. That's in the scriptures. So, of course, they were warring with each other back then, but it wasn't to the sense to where they needed protection from the people that wanted to conquer them.
No. And then here's the kicker. And teachings in the Catholic faith.
Oh gosh.
Catholicism was part of the package. Catholicism was part of the package. They brought Christianity over here, right? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit in the scriptures, and we'll dive deeper into that. If you got something you want to bring out, go right ahead.
No, go ahead.
The native laborer paid tributes to the encomendero in the form of gold or other metals or agricultural products. We brought this out when we bring out Lamentations 5, where it says we drunk in our water, right, for wood, and we've given the hand to the Egyptian, and basically it's talking about this tribute. So we had to work our own land and then bring all these resources to the encomendero, right? And then they would give us rations out. We spoke about this on Saturday. So they would give you like a ration coin. So they wouldn't give you real currency. They wouldn't give you the currency of Spain that could make you get status and elevated. They gave you like chits, right? They call them chits or what was it in Cuba? Ration cards. They gave them ration cards. When we were in Cuba, they were talking about how they get ration cards and they can only get like one loaf of bread a week or one whatever, whatever it is. Gosh, man, now that I think about that, I remember how them supermarkets were. Let me tell you, we got it good here in America. We got it very good here in America. All right, you go and the shelves are full. Look how everybody bugged the hell out when we couldn't find toilet paper.
Right.
That's like every day in some of these countries still for our brothers and sisters.
Over here being fed by the face of the serpent over
That's
here.
it. So the native laborers had to, and notice how they keep saying laborers, right? Not slaves, but they had to pay tribute. The system was intended to be a way to enter into a peaceable and mutually beneficial relationship with the indigenous peoples of America. This is them trying to sugarcoat it. They're saying that it was supposed to be a good thing. Let me tell you how that's such a lie. How is it a good thing if you're coming to my land, my house that I live in,
Bring it
and
out.
now you're saying I can live here now, and you can't do anything about it?
And it said it was peaceable. It was peaceable. So they didn't create peace. They didn't create peace.
Right.
Because it was already there.
Right.
Well, plus the scripture says that the war was in his heart. So
Right.
it wasn't peaceable whatsoever.
Right.
So it says, however, the system quickly devolved into essentially a system of slavery. So now they finally say it, right? Native Americans were treated cruelly and forced into hard labor. Now, this is not just your mira. This is your how now, whatever, whatever stereotype you have in your head of what a Native American is with headdress and all that stuff. It's talking about that as well, all right? This was something that was prevalent in this side of the world, and it started with the Spaniards, right? Ironically, what they call the era here, what Esau calls it, prior to the arrival of Columbus and the rest of the conquistadors, is the pre-Columbian era.
Mm-hmm.
They call it the pre-Columbian era, and by and large, history is taught to us, and our history starts with the post-Columbian era. The pre-Columbian era is always very vague. If you do research into it, it's speculative, it's vague. They try to speculate the number of people that were here. I think they number it at somewhere around less than 100 million people lived on this side of the world. But when you read the other texts that talk about the genocide that they committed here, it's damn near 500,000 people that were killed, murdered, enslaved, or enslaved, then murdered and died and tortured. But they try to bring the numbers way, way down when they do that stuff. Like they said, the United States only have 5 million natives in it.
Sounds about white.
Sounds about white. I see what you did there.
That they would do that.
I see what you did.
Sounds about white.
So it says the crown attempted to fix the system by passing various laws throughout the century, but the encomenderos refused to comply with these new measures. Eventually, the encomienda system was replaced by the repartimiento system, but it was not abolished until the late 18th century. It's very similar to like when slavery was abolished, and then you had the black coats.
That's right.
Right, and then after that you had Jim Crow. So we'll talk about the repartimiento system as well, which replaced the encomienda system, but it was still slavery. That's why I say slavery by other names. That's all they call it. So yes, I wanted to get to this timeline, right? So it says important years to note for the encomienda system, because you made a point of that, the most popular slavery was the one from 1619 onward, and especially because it lasted so long, right? So it was more prevalent.
So you're about to go into the similarities that we had to face for Northern Kingdom.
Yes.
and Southern Kingdom.
Yes, correct. So it says in 1503, the first encomiendas are granted to Spanish conquistadors in the Americas. So by 1503, they had this whole thing set up. Remember, 1492, Columbus arrived. People started to come after that once word got back, right? Like the wealth and everything that was here. And they basically said it was a land grab. And they said, hey, we're going to claim this for Spain. And they called it New Spain over here, this side of the world. They called it New Spain. And they said, we're going to claim this for Spain. And in claiming it, they said, well, we need people to cultivate it. So let's offer them land and slaves to basically take these parcels of land. And what they did was they declared all the natives what was called vassals. All right, so look up vassal. I should have gave it to you, but you can look it up as we talk about it. Let's look up that definition. Vassal. Vassal. All right. You got that vassal definition. Let's bring that up. It says a holder of land by feudal tenure on conditions of homage and allegiance. Gosh, that's not like give me something else. Wait, go up. Bondsman, serf, slave. Look at a similar word, slave. Vassal is a fancy word. Slave. So basically, the part that you get, you had to pay homage and allegiance to Spain.
Read the bottom under the picture. Is a person or country in a subordinate position to another.
Look at that. A person or country in subordinate position to another. So it meant slave. So they claimed all the natives as vassals. And then they said, well, since you're vassals, you have to do service to the crown, right? And it's the feudal system. And they said, hey, so, you know, basically you're tied to the land. You're going to be under this governor, right? But they called them encomenderos. An encomendero was basically a governor. It's the same way that they did with the colonies, right? And with the so-called African slaves. It says, in 1512 to 1513, Spain passes the laws of Burgos in an attempt to end the abuse of the system. In 1542, Spain passes the new law of the Indies, another failed attempt to end the abuse of Native Americans.
It says the laws of Burgos. How many Northern Kingdom have their last name Burgos? Now you know why.
Right. So we have slave master names. Slave master names. So it says, why is the Encomienda system so important? The Encomienda system allowed for a vast accumulation of wealth by the conquistadors, just like the transatlantic slave trade.
Yes, sir.
It allowed, right? So I remember some years back when we went to Puerto Rico, we were talking about, hey, sue Spain, right?
Yeah. Make it plain, sue Spain.
Make it plain, sue Spain. Spain owes us reparations.
That's right.
Just like what's now today the United States of America owes Southern Kingdom reparations. Spain owes us some reparations. So it says the Encomienda system allowed for vast accumulation of wealth by the conquistadors and the Spanish crown. They benefited from the discovery of gold and silver in the New World. This is one of the few texts that I've read that actually acknowledges that there was gold and silver here. Notice they spoke about the mines also. That's not to be taken lightly. They tell you that they came here and that we were selling them land for trinkets, for beads. That's BS. We had gold and silver and all the like, and we wanted beads instead?
Hey, ain't no Jake was going to get bamboozled like that.
Nope. Nope, they full of crap. They full of crap, right?
Watches.
So it goes to tell you what their thing was here. It says they benefited from discovery of gold and silver in the New World and the mining of those metals by their laborers. The system resulted in the widespread abuse of indigenous peoples, as well as the theft of their land, since a person of mixed native and Spanish ancestry could not be entered into the Encomienda system. So if you weren't pure-blood Spaniard, you couldn't elevate yourself, right?
Hey, and then you know what's heavy about that too, Cap? Is that it's not like we didn't know what the gold and silver was, because obviously it was out and about and there, like we had it in our clothes and everything else for the Spaniards to see. It wasn't like they said, hey, let's come mine in this spot right here. So we obviously knew it was of value. That's why we had it everywhere. It wasn't like they just came and said, hey, let's dig a hole right here. Oh, there's gold, so let's start mining. So it's like how Cap said, we weren't bamboozled and, oh, that's shinier than this, so let's trade for this.
Right.
No, we knew the value of all that stuff.
They make it sound like we were 5 years old.
Yeah, right.
But I'll give you an example how you know the hypocrisy in that, and just think of this historically, right? If I would have had time, I would have researched it and pulled it up. When you read the accounts, I'm going to use Mexico for example with Montezuma, of how they went into the Aztec cities and temples. They said that it was laden with gold, that we had gold statues and everything. If we didn't think the gold was precious and valuable, why were we making statues and monuments and inlaying it in our clothes and all that stuff like that?
So when they came, we had it everywhere because we saw the value in it.
Right.
So they were like, oh, this place is full of gold and silver.
Right. We used it for precious things.
Right, exactly.
Right. What are you showing us here, producer? You want to show them in the mines? Yeah, to this day you see that. Like, it runs in their blood, being in mines, right? So,
bro, I see that and it pisses me off.
Hey, and they're always getting trapped in the mines. You notice that?
Always.
Yep. I'll tell you, that movie, The End of Poverty, that documentary, it goes into that stuff. Do you have that up on the screen? You could bring up some of the mine stuff in there. Yeah, show the one with the little kid. Not first, though. Show the other one first. Is it up? I don't see it up there. You got it up there? Oh, you do. So look that's Bolivia, right? So that's our brothers and sisters in Bolivia. Look, the kids from a young age, they got them in there. And now the difference now is they'll pay them a small wage, right? But so they have the illusion of inclusion now going on over there. But there's still a lot. That whole caste system, the Encomienda system, has a lasting effect to this day because some of them still claim that Spanish blood, and they treat the ones that are darker as inferior.
Yep.
You still have that effect going on over there to this day. Let's go back to the Encomienda system and the Magoosh. So it says a person of mixed native and Spanish ancestry could not be entered into the Encomienda system. Some of the indigenous started to intermarry with Europeans so as to save their families from a life of forced labor. So some of it was out of necessity. And they say, yeah, I'll marry you. Yeah, I'll do this just to avoid the life of slavery. It says this practice, along with the forced conversions to Catholicism, there it goes again, resulted in the dilution of tribal identity and culture throughout the Americas. That's that Hosea 9. Let's get that real quick. I'm sorry, Hosea 7 and 8. Let's get that real quick. So they wound up losing a lot of their tribal identity and their culture. What's that popping? We all right?
Try to play another sound effect.
Test.
He tried to play another sound effect.
It's the 808.
It's the 808s? Damn, that thing is loud.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there's our brother from India watching.
You ready, Cap? Want to get it?
Okay. All right.
Sounds different, though.
Hosea 7 and 8.
The book of Hosea, chapter 7 and verse 8. Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people.
Right, we just read that. It says that they started to intermarry with Europeans so as to save their families from a life of forced labor, right? So it says Ephraim, he have mixed himself among the people. Come on.
Ephraim is a cake not turned.
This is why you have the speckled bird effect of why some of us are light-skinned, some of us are darker, so on and so forth, right? So it's letting you know, because what's a cake not turned when you look at a cake not turned, right? Think of a pancake, right? You put a pancake down. If you leave one side cooking and you don't flip it over, the other side is going to wind up being lighter, the side that did not get cooked, right? So you have to understand something. Get Psalms 106 and 35 as the precept for this when it says he mixed himself, all right? So that you can see that it says that we were mingled among the people, because sometimes people try to say that doesn't mean that we intermarried. Right? Come on, read this.
The book of Psalms, chapter 106, verse 35.
Actually, start at 34.
Verse 34. They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them.
Right, so he's talking about from past transgressions that happened on the other side of the world, that when we came here, we had to pay for it this way. Come on.
But were mingled among the heathen and learned their works.
Right, and we were mingled among them and we learned their works, right? So when it says we have mingled and mixed, similar meanings. It says so we have mixed ourselves among the people, and it says Ephraim is a cake not turned in Hosea. Now, read on, verse 9.
Verse 9.
No, read 36, Captain.
Oh, go ahead.
Verse 36.
I didn't see it.
Psalms 106, verse 36. And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them.
So every time you following the customs of the heathen, the culture of the heathen, it is a snare. Hence why we don't know who we are today until we are told and shown in the scriptures.
Right. And remember, we just read several times. It said one of the part of the Encomienda system was that they had to learn Catholicism. So it brought us into that idolatry as well.
And the dilution of the tribal identity. There it goes right there.
Right. That's what happens when it says you were mixed among the among the people and among the heathen. So it says we followed after their idols. This practice, along with the forced conversions to Catholicism, resulted in the dilution of tribal identity and culture throughout the Americas. Go ahead, read on, verse 9.
Hosea chapter 7 and verse 9. Strangers have devoured his strength, and he knoweth it not. Yea, gray hairs are here and there upon him, yet he knoweth not.
Our strength that's that dilution, right? So remember when something's strong, right? You buy something and they say, hey, you have to dilute it. Do not use at full strength, right? At full strength, it'll be messed up. We're reading it here that it said that we were diluted. It resulted in, and mind you, we were already diluted from the idolatry that we had carried over from us from all the other previous captivities, from Assyria, Persia, Mede, right? So we had brought all those over with us. And then now we got even further diluted by these different practices of intermingling. Some was forced as they raped us, and some was a persuasion when they were like, hey, you know what? We're going to intermarry with them where it was allowed to do that. And that goes into the castas, right? And I don't know if we'll have time to talk about that today, but if we can circle back to that, we'll talk about the castas. And that's the caste system, how they were able to track, because it was so important to them, the different ways and the intermixings of who we mixed with and so on and so forth. And that's how they kept track of keeping this system in place, right? So it says, strangers have devoured our strength. And our strength really lies in this Bible, right? The joy of the Lord is our strength, the scripture tells you, all right? So they've put it, remember what we said at the start of the show? They want to cast our bands asunder, and they want to put the name of Israel out of remembrance.
That's right.
Part of that is by hiding this from us and saying this is not from us. Another method is to say that you don't got to keep these laws. That's how they do us. That's how they line it up. That's part. So you see the levels to this craftiness that they do. Right. It's not a subtle thing. It always comes with their religion attached to it, their belief systems attached to it.
Can I get something on that, Cap?
Yeah, go ahead.
Give me Revelation 13, verse 15. On the part where it says this practice along with the forced convergence of Catholicism. Now, when we read up in the article, it didn't say that it was forced. But I'm glad that they said it was forced right here. But it wasn't forced in the sense of, hey, do you want to be a Catholic? No. Okay, that's fine. This is how it was forced. Read that.
The book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast.
We know the image of the beast is talking about that false image of Christ. Read on.
That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
Should be what?
Should be killed.
So that forced Catholicism came with the cost of your life if you didn't convert. Because like when I was in the sniper platoon in the Marine Corps and I went to Iraq, in order to overcome our enemies, right, we had to gather as much intel as possible to know how they thought, where they would be, to overcome them. They knew when they come over here who we were. And they knew that the God of Israel would not be on our side if we were in idolatry. So the first commandment that God gave us in the 10 Commandments is, thou shalt have no other gods before me. So that forced Catholicism was to overcome us so we can be completely destroyed as a nation of people.
Right. And it's interesting that you say that because there's another book, we don't have it here, Lost Tribes in Promised Land, and it talks about when Montesinos went and he met. And he says that when he met the Ephraimites, right? I think it says that they descended from Joseph in the book.
Yep.
And he says when they came over, they spoke to him in Hebrew, and they gave the Hebrew creed, which is what you read. I can't remember exactly where in the Old Testament it says, "Hear, O Lord, the Lord our God is one God."
Yep.
So going back to that first commandment, they knew that, and they said, "Listen, we can overcome these people if we get them to turn away from God."
That's that Judith 5 all day.
Not all of us were here in idolatry, sun worshiping.
When Herlophanes got the report of the Israelites, hey, who was this in that hill country? And he said, oh, that's the Israelites. If they're in sin, you can overcome them. You think that wasn't trickled down to all the other heathen?
Yep.
That's how Psalms 83 is accomplished.
It was the same setup, and they said, hey, we can overcome them if the Lord, hey, so let's go and let's force them.
That's right.
To keep Catholicism.
Hey, every captivity, that MO was used.
That's right.
Except for the Persians. The Persians were the only ones that allowed us, if I'm not mistaken, to live our lives as an Israelite. because that's the same exact thing they did in the Greek captivity. You could not profess yourself to be a Jew, or if not, you will be killed. That's the strategy. That's why what the Assyrians did, what did? They put their people in our land, Samaria primarily, and then they put us in their land, divide and conquer. Somebody else I put that earlier in the
comment board.
Yep.
All right. Let me get Matthew 24 and start at verse 4, because going into that Catholicism, right? We a lot of times we don't bring this out enough. You got to bring this thing out. And especially when it comes to Northern Kingdom, like when we go on the Northern Kingdom trips, we stay bringing this out, because to this day they are in love with Caesar, right? Like hard body. I'm not saying I haven't come across Judah and Benjamin and even Levi that'll defend Caesar to the death, but more often than not,
they in love.
Except
with
in
the
Cuba.
Caesar.
Except in Cuba. When we showed them Black Christ in Cuba, they were happy.
They're like, hey, that looks like my favorite baseball player.
Right. That's wow, you're terrible.
You said, yo, Enisa Perez?
They said Christ looks like my favorite baseball player. Check this out, right? Dealing with that Catholicism as they came over here. Come on.
Matthew chapter 24 and verse 4. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you.
And they were deceived, because part of it was forced, but then part of it became willingly, right? And they were deceived. And what happened is that part of that dilution and loss of tribal identity and culture, all right, was that we strayed further and further from this Bible, and we started to worship a white Jesus and a white God. And by extension, if Christ and God is white, right, supposedly, then we saw that God was with these people, because how else could they rule over us? Forgetting why they were ruling over us, and that it was our God who was punishing us for our misdeeds. But Christ said, take heed that no man deceive you. Come on.
For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
And that's what they did. They came with that white image of Caesar Borgia, and they were saying, look, this is Christ. And by extension, they're saying, I'm Christ, because they look like him. And they said, and they will deceive many. Go back to Hosea 7 and jump to verse 11 and read that.
That's white supremacy at its best.
Right. That is white supremacy at its best. Come on.
Hosea chapter 7 and verse 11. Ephraim also is like a silly dove without heart. They call to Egypt. They go to Assyria.
That's the part here where they said they went and they said, hey, we're going to marry some of these Europeans to save our families.
Hey, read that again from the top.
Right?
Verse 11.
Bring it out.
Ephraim also is like a silly dove.
That's all I wanted.
Ephraim is like, see, people read that and they say, oh, Ephraim's a silly dove, and that's it. Well, why was he like a silly dove? Come on.
Right.
Without heart.
Because he did not want to resist this. He said, I don't want to go into slavery. I want to be above my people, so I'm going to marry into this European crap. Come on.
Without heart, they call to Egypt, and they go to Assyria.
Hey, and a lot, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I know I joke, right? And I say I'm Judah. I think Deacon Malachi one time was saying that I must be Judah because I put too much. No.
Swagged out.
Listen. The sons of Nun are back. Right?
That's right.
He did have an ear, let him hear.
Right.
The brothers with the spirit of Joshua, with the spirit of Hosea, with the spirit of Tobit. All right. Who else we got?
That's about it, I think.
Said, keep it going.
Listen, we don't got a lot of Northern Kingdom that they good. Joseph, right? Hey, Joseph, bro.
Hey,
Joseph had
saved the country,
fervent spirit, bro.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Hey, okay. All right.
Them spirits are back, and we got to rally the silly doves back. This is why we doing the show. That's why we're doing the show. Rallying the silly doves back.
They got a bird call on the.
General Cornwall Wallace.
Give us the call. Give us the bird call, bro.
That's right, bro.
So it says, let's go back to the thing. It says the Encomienda system was also the first racially based system of slavery in the New World. Did you hear that? It was the first racially based system of slavery in the New World. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, what do you mean you went into slavery first? Listen, we're talking about modern day slavery.
Yeah, right.
Right? We're not talking about, we all went into slavery together when we were in Egypt, all right? We're talking about in the modern day slavery sense, our captivity started before the more popular, Africans, so-called Africans were enslaved prior to that. But remember, as far as the racially based system of slavery, it started there. Why? Why was that the first racially based one? Because people will come to you and they say, oh, they were, the other ones were not, there were other nations mixed with the Israelites as slaves in Rome and other stuff like that. Yes, that's true. Rome put a bunch of people in slavery. They knew, like what you said before, Captain America, they knew who we were.
That's right.
They knew we were God's chosen, those lost tribes.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we got to do this. This is going to be the first racially based system of slavery in the New World and can be seen as a precursor to the African slave trade that replaced it. So we've spoken about that at length over the past few weeks.
Precursor, meaning before.
They had to replenish, right? So I know last week and over the weeks we spoke about it, and people will say, well, if you mixed with the people, how did you get back? That's where the Costas come into play, and it talks about the return, where you get back to a native by the different way that all the mixings happened, right? And what happened was part of the byproduct of them bringing more slaves over was Israel got replenished on this side of the world. So guess what? Some light-skinned, mira, Hispanics,
Judah,
very well could be Judah.
Yeah, that's right. It works both ways. It works both ways.
Very well could be Judah.
Hey, I'm telling you, all praise is the Most High in Christ. That I'm at the point now in this truth that I don't see our tribes. I just see Israel.
Right.
I don't.
Get the miscarrying womb since we're here. Let's read that.
Hosea 9.
9 and let's see where we want to start.
Turning your pages with some aggression there.
With some authority.
Start at 13. Start at 13.
Got the little things for
Actually,
fingers.
start at 12. Start at 12.
Book of Hosea, chapter 9 and verse 12.
Those didn't come like that.
Though they bring up their children, yet will I bereave
So
them.
he's talking about those children that were the hand was given to mix the silly dove, right, with no heart, that they went and they gave themselves to the Egyptian, to the Assyrian, they called to them, right? So those children that were not pure Israel, it says the most that they brought them up there. It says, but so if they bring up their children with these Europeans that's not an Israelite, it says the Most High is going to bereave them. Come on.
That there shall not be a man left.
Now, that does not mean that there are not those here in these last days, but what is letting you know, that's the wheat and chaff, all right? Those that are, the Spirit's going to be a witness, and they're going to endure in this until the end, right? A heathen's not going to last in this thing.
Nope.
A heathen will not endure in this. A heathen will not endure in this. So it's talking about them that will endure, right? So that's why it says, I know my sheep, is what Christ was saying. Come on, read.
Yea, woe also to them when I depart from them.
Right, meaning when I leave them fully, because why? They're gonna succumb to Christianity. They're gonna succumb to white Jesus. They're not even gonna remember me, and they're gonna be in a worse state. Come on.
Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place. But Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer.
So it's saying that we are going to bring, that's what we just read, how it says that we were intermarrying with Europeans. And when it says Ephraim here, that's a title for the whole northern kingdom.
Right.
It is a lineage of a specific tribe, which are the so-called Puerto Ricans today. But Ephraim was the head of those northern tribes. So that's the title, meaning all those northern kingdom.
And understand all the tribes intermingled because that's why there was a law on it. That you should not marry the strangers.
That's a good point.
Where's the shing after that?
Going all the way back to Exodus when we brought it out for the wedding, right? It says like don't bring that stuff. Don't intermarry. That was one of the things.
And Nehemiah was big on that too in the book of Nehemiah.
Right. And why do you think Tobit had to bring that out?
Right, but he's right. Marry from your own.
Marry from your own tribe because he knew all the tribes had a history of doing that.
Right.
Where's the sword?
Where's the sword? He's a Northern Kingdom producer. Where's the bombs? Where's the sword?
Where's the cut?
Wow.
I think he lost us with the 808s.
But I think when the sound got messed up, he had a heart attack, and his last thing was to hit the button so the show could go on, and he's like lying on the floor, like
dang,
knocked out. He fainted. He fainted because he said, "Oh no, the show got messed up."
I had one job.
Come on, keep reading.
Verse 14. Give them, O Lord, what will thou give?
He said, give them, Lord, meaning punish them for bringing their children to the murderer. Come on.
Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts.
The vast majority of those that were heathen because of the intermixing, the Most High put to death already.
That's right.
the Most High put to death already. So I'm not saying that everybody in South America, Central America, in the Caribbean is Israel, right? But the Most High gave them a miscarrying womb and dry breast. So the ones that didn't miscarry, the children died as babies, as children. They could not bring them up. Because if you have a dry breast, you can't feed your baby. There was no formula in the 1500s.
Hey, Kyle, hold on. And it works the same way with the southern tribes, right? Because you look at Bill de Blasio's kids. They got afros and dark and everything. And they're not Israel. Their father's an Edomite.
Yep. You're right. Absolutely right. So
it works both ways.
Yes. It works both ways. That whole identity thing by complexion and woolly hair is dumb as hell.
It's ridiculous.
Well, you know how much captivities we were in? And it wasn't just Northern Kingdom. All Israel was in captivity.
Thousands of years.
Right. Right. So it says, who are some historical people related to this? So you have Nicolas de Obando. He was the royal governor who first established the Encomienda system on behalf of the crown. So this is the heathen that came up with the brilliant idea.
He got a special place in hell.
Oh, there's a special place in hell for him. Yep. And then we'll eventually talk about him on the show. We have Bartolome de las Casas.
You know, they were loving him, loving some Obando too back then.
Oh, they loved Obando. Obando! Muchas gracias por el encomendiera.
Free labor, man. That was all profit. You know, they were loving some Obando then. Yep.
Tú sí tienes sabiduría, Obando.
Little did they know his Most High had his
Tú sabes mucho de negocio.
Hey, what do you say in Dior?
No, Papayón lo está matando, bro. Papayón.
Obando, tú estás matando.
Papayón.
So la esclavitud está matando.
La esclavitud lo está matando. And then you have Bartolome de las Casas. And some people are familiar with him if you've looked up Northern Kingdom history. And it says a former encomendero. So that part is usually left out, that he was actually a contributor to this system.
And you know what's interesting? Because he was a friar, and he was actually... It's funny that... See how the spirit ain't right? Yeah. Edomite spirit ain't right? Because he was documenting the atrocities, and he was saying... He said he was against it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he was actually for it.
And initially, and then they say he was against it at some point. And that's just the spirit. That's just the spirit of the Most High. You know how like he hardened Pharaoh's heart, so he put it on this guy's spirit.
You see, that's say he advocated for it,
so
but he was part of it too, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He was a former one, so he gave it up. And it says he advocated for the rights of Native Americans after.
He said, "I'll make my money drawing this stuff."
Yeah, right. That means he's still complicit then.
He's still complicit because he didn't do anything but sat there and draw. Because the drawings that they show, man, is the one with them smashing the babies on the rocks, killing the babies as they were coming out the mother, the dogs attacking them on fire. So he was watching all of that.
He made his money and then retired and then went to drawings. Come on, bro. Stop. Stop.
But all praise to the Most High, he documented.
Yeah. We'll go over.
That was his lot. Yeah,
we'll go over Bartolome de las Casas because that specifically deals with Simeon, Bartolome de las Casas.
Simeon.
He talks about Hispaniola, and that's what they call the.
Well, that's where Columbus went first. In '92.
Yeah.
He didn't go to Puerto Rico and the other ones till '93.
Yep. And then that's where he really laid it down at that point over there. So, let's go to Wiki, the Encomienda. Let's go to Wiki, the Encomienda.
Wow, that's funny. Something they said they were told to call them dogs. Meanwhile, the Bible calls them dogs.
Yep. So let's talk about this. So the Encomienda, right? So this was a Spanish labor system that rewarded conquerors. So I like the language Wiki uses. Mm-hmm. See, the other thing was more academic, so they were trying to use nice language. It goes to show you how
forced labor.
It goes to show you how the history book. They only mentioned slavery like twice in the other one. They kept talking about laborers and forced labor. I like how they said they rewarded the conquerors because that's what it was. They were invaders. They were conquerors. The Encomienda system was based on them coming. It's literally like if I walk into your house one day and I say, I claim this for my family, and now you guys got to work for me.
And you know what's funny? In school, when you're taught about the 14 colonies, you go over the word colony, but you don't realize that the root word is colonizer.
Right.
From that there. So that wasn't a beautiful thing, but in school, they make it seem, the 13 colonies. I said 14. The 13 colonies were established. Nah, man, that was the 13 hijacks is what that was.
There it is.
13 robberies, 13 murders at a huge scale.
And by that means that set up the launch pad for them to go into the West and take and destroy everything else.
Sure did.
So it was a Spanish labor system that rewarded conquerors with the labor of particular groups of conquered non-Christian people, right? And when they say non-Christian, they mean not following their religions,
right?
Catholicism. The laborers, in theory, were provided with benefits. Notice it says in theory, so I like Wiki's being a little more plain about it. Were provided with benefits by the conquerors for whom they labored. The Catholic religion being a principal benefit. It's a principal benefit that you had to. That goes into that Matthew 24, that they came and they professed themselves that they were Christ, and they were deceived into that. And to them, that was a benefit, that we were going to gentrify the people. What they call gentrification today, when they go into a neighborhood and kick us all out and put a whole bunch of Starbucks in there.
Become Sobro.
Right, South Bronx becomes Sobro, right? So they'll let the thing get decrepit, and then they'll come in and save it, and then price everybody out so they can't live there. And they brought Christianity with it. So it says the laborers, in theory, were provided with benefits by the conquerors for whom they labored. The Catholic religion being a principal benefit. The Encomienda was first established in Spain following the Christian conquest of Moorish territories. So Ovando was the first one that brought it here. But here now you get more history, and it's telling you that they were dealing with a similar system when they conquered Moorish territories. Who were the Moors? The Israelites. They'll later try to tell you that it was Arabs and stuff like that. It was Israelites, right? Moor means black. So they used the same system there, right? Again, that goes more into the history that Bishop was bringing out about the Ladinos and the dark-skinned Jews in Spain. So it says this was known to Christians as the Reconquista. Now, the Reconquista was when they basically kicked the Moors out of Spain because we were ruling in the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, right? And they were able to win Spain back. It says, and it was applied on a much larger scale during the Spanish colonization of the Americas and the Spanish Philippines.
There it is.
The Spanish Philippines were the overseas territories of the Spanish Empire, all right? And it was from 1565 to 1901 that Spain was involved in there. It was one of the last strongholds, along with Puerto Rico, that they gave up. Puerto Rico and the Philippines, and I think a couple others, were still territories of Spain at the turn of last century. That's not so long ago. You're talking about 120 years ago. And they were governed from Manila in the Spanish Philippines. The seat of government was in the Spanish Philippines, and it encompassed the Marianas, the Carolines, Palaos. Hold on, I got more here. I'm looking it up. Where else? And Guam, as well as parts of Formosa, Sulawesi, and the Moluccas.
Hey, producer, highlight that Spanish colonization of America thing again. So look at that.
The Spanish colonization of the Americas began
Look,
under the
all the
Crown
way
of
up to
Castile. Look at that. Wow, look at the map.
Parts of
I didn't
Canada,
even see that.
right? That's Canada up there, right?
Right.
To the north.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, I didn't even see that map.
Look at that thing.
That's how much power Spain had over here. Look at all that stuff. Bro, that's all Northern Kingdom.
Well, that's where you get California, Nevada.
And then go back to the map for that and click on it. Open it up. And then if you click on the map, it'll expand. Oh, I just clicked on it and did it. Okay. So blow that up a little bit.
Hey, look to the right.
So look at the part in the right of what's the United States, if you know your geography, right? And that part was not under Spain because by that point, the British,
1790.
the Pilgrims, the Dutch, the French started coming over.
Well, that was the 13
to take
colonies.
that part.
Colonies, yeah.
Yes, so that was that side. So basically, east of the Mississippi, so while Spain was busy where all the gold and stuff was, when we read about the Pilgrims and how Virginia already had a colony and everything, they were doing their slavery there as well. All right, so it was different oppressors at the same time. But look at all their territories. That's insane.
That's crazy.
That's insane. And then if you go to the globe, that's why it's showing you like the different islands and stuff too that they had there also.
Wait, look, so that's the Persian Gulf.
Mm-hmm. The Gulf of Mexico.
This man got to go.
Wait,
that's it.
Africa too. Look.
Yeah, They had parts of it. Yeah, remember we were reading that they dealt with slaves from South Africa and parts of West Africa to bring them over here to replenish all the ones that they killed over here.
India.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the Encomienda.
Estado da India.
So also, so basically, there's a remnant of our people in the Philippines, Guam, and places like that as well. All right, India also. I was talking with Deacon Aitan. Hopefully later, I got more books and things that we can bring out, and he was saying that we were those sheiks. Ephraim was the sheiks in India, and that we were like revered during that time. So that goes into like what they call Moors. Anybody dark skinned was called Moors. So during those times in the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages when we were ruling, Ephraim by and large were mostly the sheiks from that time. So it says conquered peoples were considered vassals of the Spanish monarch. So remember, vassals is a nice word to say slave.
Yeah, chattel.
Right? Chattel slavery. The crown awarded an encomienda as a grant to a particular individual, like Ovando. In the conquest era of the 16th century, the grants were considered to be a monopoly on the labor of particular groups of indigenous peoples, held in perpetuity by the grant holder, called the encomendero, and his or her descendants. So they tell you that the slaves weren't assigned to people. They were assigned to the land, but the land was passed down, and by extension, the people on it, so it was the same thing. So they try to say that they go out of their way to not call it slavery.
Right.
But it was slavery. It was the native indigenous slave trade. It was the native indigenous slave trade.
That picture right there is proof it was slavery.
Right, look at them. Just murdered down on the floor. So it says encomiendas devolved from their original Iberian form, right, and Iberia is just Spain, into a form of communal slavery. In the encomienda, the Spanish crown granted a person a specified number of natives from a specific community, but did not dictate which individuals in the community would have to provide their labor.
Hey, you got black Hebrew Israelites right now. See, it's just communal slavery. They ain't Israel. It's different.
It's different because it says communal slavery. Get out of here. It says indigenous leaders were charged with mobilizing the assessed tribute and labor. So basically, they did like in Egypt, and they set taskmasters up.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what they did. And they said the leaders had to basically mobilize the labor force to pay the tribute. It says, in turn, encomenderos were to ensure that the encomienda natives were given instruction in the Christian faith and Spanish language. So it was, here's another tongue that you don't know, right? That you don't understand. Get that in Deuteronomy 28, a nation of fierce continents.
Get that, bro.
Got you. No, I got you.
And look up the Spanish eagle.
It's on the way.
Because that was one of the standards they flew under, right?
Let me start at verse 49.
Let me see. No,
it's like, you know what? Just start at Genesis 1:1, and I'll just read up.
Start at 49. Just get to the point, yeah.
Yes, sir. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49.
Actually, do 47 and then read 49.
Yes, sir. Verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things.
Right, so we have to remember that this is why these things happened unto us, right? We didn't serve the Lord our God with joyfulness and with gladness for the abundance of all things. Why? Because when you read in verses 1 through 15 of this chapter, he tells you, hey, if you serve me, all this is going to be yours, the whole earth and everything in it, and you're going to be rolling on it. Good. I'm glad you got that up. Go ahead. Jump to verse 49.
Verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far.
The Spanish crown. He brought the Spanish crown against our people. Come on.
From the end of the earth.
From the other side of the earth, over this way. Come on.
As swift as the eagle flieth.
Look, it's not just America that had the eagle. So it was not just Southern Kingdom that dealt with that captivity. Look at that eagle. Look at the Spanish flag and look at the eagle on the Spanish flag. This was the flag that they were flying under their monarchy. Go ahead, blow it up. All right. It says, as swift as the eagle flieth. Come on.
A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
We're just reading that it said not only were we taught Christianity, we were taught the Spanish language. We did not understand their language. We didn't speak Spanish. That's not our native tongue.
Guess what? The Southern Kingdom didn't speak English either.
Southern Kingdom didn't speak English either.
So we all fit the curses.
We all fit the curses. Read on, verse 50.
Verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
We just saw how they have kids in mind and they had older people in mind. They did not care. That it's like it was brought out. This man does not have a conscience.
Nope.
So when it says that he doesn't regard the person of old, because why? You're supposed to honor the hoary head, the scripture tells you. You're supposed to respect your elders. They didn't care about that, right? And it said they showed no favor to the young, because a normal person with a conscience will look at a young child or baby and instinctively you feel like, okay, maybe I'm not going to be so brutal to this child, right? But this person has no conscience. So they said, no favor to the young. Come on, read.
Verse 51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle.
This is the tribute that they had to arrange to them. He will eat the fruit of your cattle. Come on.
And the fruit of thy land.
That's what we were bringing to him. Come on.
Until thou be destroyed.
And he certainly destroyed us. Because why? It says we were diluted. Our tribal heritage was diluted. We lost our identity. We mixed ourselves among them. He stole our strength. Right. It says we grow old and gray and don't even realize that they have overcome us. Come on.
Which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thine kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee.
Until he have destroyed us. So this is part of what we're reading now with that Encomienda system. This is what happened to us. All right. A lot of times we read it, and I get it, right? Listen, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to beat up Southern Kingdom here. Unbeknownst to y'all, because maybe y'all don't hear it, maybe, right? Because I know, obviously, anybody that's here with IUIC, you know we teach who all the 12 tribes are.
Right.
But this is because, it's out there. There's people out there that are always trying to gainsay and say we're not. And let me tell you something. Going back to that apologist and the video we spoke about at the opening of the show, they're getting wind to that, and they're using that in their tactics as well. So they'll make comments if they go out to a camp, right? And they'll see, so let's say it's you and me, and they'll try to create a wedge between you and me and be like, bro, but he wasn't even, why are you accepting him as...
That goes to show you that they have an agenda.
Yeah, this camp tells you that he's a Gentile, that he's not, so why are you even out here with them
I noticed
teaching
they've been
and stuff
doing
like
that
that?
as of late.
Yes, so they're doing that now, and again, that's part of that crafty counsel. So supposedly, these apologists come under the guise of they want to save you and bring you to Christ, but then you see how they try to drive a wedge between what we're doing out there.
Jesuit.
So it's not to beat up, and if the shoe fits, you wear it, all right? Any brothers and sisters here that know this and understand this, great. And I pray that some of this gets reinforced, so when you speak to Northern Kingdom brothers and sisters, you have a little more resources in your arsenal to bring them this understanding, should you have the opportunity to do so. But also to the haters out there that are gonna, the comments will surely come. Almost every video, is that a white man teaching? Why you got this guy like this? Is that Mexican ain't? And first of all, I'm not even Mexican, all right? I'm an Ephraimite from the tribe of Ephraim.
The mighty tribe of Ephraim.
The mighty. Thank you. You trying to make up for earlier?
Vainglorious.
Mm-hmm. You trying to make up for earlier? So where was I?
He said from the strong tribe of.
Okay, I'm going to go back to it. It says, indigenous leaders were charged of mobilizing the assessed tribute and labor. In turn, encomenderos were to ensure that the encomienda natives were given instruction in the Christian faith and Spanish language and protect them from warring tribes or pirates. They had to suppress rebellion against Spaniards and maintain infrastructure. In return, the natives would provide tributes in the form of metals, maize, wheat, pork, or other agricultural products. Just what we read when we were reading verse 50 and 51 and 52. Right? So it says, with the ousting of Christopher Columbus, the Spanish crown sent a royal governor, Fray Nicolás de Ovando. There's Ovando. Ovi. Hey, and he was a friar. It says Fray. He was a friar.
They're the most wicked ones, man. Jesuits, boy.
Who established the formal encomienda system. So what you had under the Moors was a more informal one. This guy Obando said, listen, we're going to clean this up.
He made it a system.
And we're going to do it this way, right? He made it a system. And he was a religious man. He was a friar. according to their religion.
For you Christians.
For you Christians out there that are hung up on Catholicism.
For you Christians out there.
In many cases, natives were forced to do hard labor and subjected to extreme punishment and death if they resisted. And death if they resisted. So it was upon pain of death that we had to do this stuff, that we had to worship Christianity. All right? It says, however, Queen Isabella I of Castile forbade slavery of the native population and deemed the indigenous to be free vassals of the crown. So you see the hypocrisy here? She forbade slavery, but they were free vassals. They were free slaves? That's an oxymoron. It doesn't make sense. Free slaves. It doesn't go together.
Nothing they do makes sense.
So it says they were free vassals of the crown. This was, I guess, for her conscience sake, or part of that crafty counsel to make it seem that we were not in captivity. And it says various versions of the law of the Indies from 1512 onwards attempted to regulate the interaction between the settlers and the natives. Both natives and Spaniards appealed to the Rio Audiencias for relief under the Encomienda system. You going to bring something out? I saw you flipping pages. You sure?
Go ahead.
Because I was going to read something on the law of the Indies, but I'm not sure if I want to bring it out. Hold on.
Go ahead, stay in spirit.
It sounds like Queen Isabella was the Joe Biden of that time and just kind of pacified the people and said, all right, you guys can vote. And here's some tax exemption and everything else.
All right.
Ridiculous.
Hey, so click on Law of Indies.
Free vassals.
So check this out. This is what the laws of the Indies were. And you're telling me that there wasn't slavery? It says the laws of the Indies are the entire body of laws issued by the Spanish crown for the American and the Philippine possession of its empire. For the American and Philippine possessions. They possessed them, it said. Possessions of its empire. They regulated social, political, religious, and economic life in these areas. Hey, that's much like the same way we rolling now.
That's slavery.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
So it's regulated by the social, political, religious, and economic life in these areas.
That sounds a lot like First Maccabees 1 when it says that they should leave all their
Yes.
customs and be one people.
Yes, that's how you know that it's the same spirit. The Greeks had an eagle.
Right.
The Romans used the eagle. The Spaniards used the eagle. The British used the eagle. Now what's known as the United States of America uses the eagle.
This man got to go.
It says the laws are composed of myriad decrees issued over the centuries and the important laws of the 16th century, which attempted to regulate the interactions between the settlers and natives, such as the laws of Burgos, and the new laws. Throughout the 400 years of Spanish presence in these parts of the world, 400 years of slavery under Spain. So it wasn't just 400 years of so-called African slavery. You have four. Everybody did their four. You doing 400? You gonna do 400? Bro, no sword or whatever. I think that's what broke the sound.
Yep.
Yeah, because he actually did it. And he got the wires.
That's why you haven't. That's why you haven't heard it. That's why he's not bringing
he
out.
sent me a text, so it was.
It was. He broke the sound with the sound effects. Bro, I gave you money to buy stuff. Just tell me, we'll order it so we can have the dope sound effects. Right?
Silly duff.
So 400 years of Spanish presence in these parts of the world. We served 400 years of bondage as well. The laws were compiled several times, most notably in 1680 under Charles II in the Recopilación de las Leyes de los Reyes de las Indias, the compilation of the laws of the Kingdom of the Indies.
That's exactly what I knew it said, too.
This became considered the classic collection of the laws, although later laws superseded parts of it. And they're always issuing decrees. They always, can we get that? They frame of mischief by law, right? They're always issuing decrees and doing stuff like that. And remember what I said earlier? Just like when slavery was abolished, then you had black codes, then you had Jim Crow. They did away with Encomienda. Then you had the law of Burgos. And then after that, what did they give you? The new laws. We had our own version of Jim Crow also. You got it?
¿Cómo se dice Jim Crow en español?
I don't know.
Jaime Crow.
Jaime Crow.
No, I don't have it.
You don't have it? You need to look it up?
Yeah, I will.
Somebody's gonna throw it up on the screen. That's actually a precept, brother. 420.
Oh, Psalm 94, man. You looking for the scripture?
Yeah.
Psalm 94, man. I thought you knew
Psalms 94 and 20.
I thought he did. He was going to it like he had it.
I didn't want to, be like, oh, Cap, I got this.
I thought it was.
But I guess I got to intervene in things.
I don't know.
I was looking at Psalm 64 and 20.
I don't know if I like
Me
this
too.
idea that he's gonna be our every week reader. I think we need to rotate.
Boom.
I'm fine with that.
I think we need to rotate.
I'll take
You
that,
could, you could go back there and tune the timbales and stuff.
Damn, bro. That's the Encomienda system.
Bring that out. All these laws that they use to regulate their social, political, religious, and economic life. Come on.
The book of Psalms, chapter 94, verse 20. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law?
That's the throne of iniquity. It says they're not going to be friendly to us. Remember, here is saying that those laws were supposed to be to help us so that they can regulate it and that it'll help the abuses. And it says, no, that's the throne of iniquity. It's not going to have fellowship with us. It said what they'll do instead is pass these laws which are seemingly to our benefit, right? But it says they frameth mischief by a law. Read that verse again.
Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law?
Right? It frameth mischief by a law. There's more on that?
They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous.
They gather themselves together. So all those royal elite of the Spanish crown, they gather themselves together against us. All right, we're that righteous. Let's go back to the Encomienda. All right, so we were reading about the laws. So it says encomiendas had often been characterized by the geographical displacement of the enslaved and breakup of communities and family units. That was a characteristic of the encomienda, all right? It says, but in Mexico, the encomienda ruled the free vassals of the crown through existing community hierarchies, and the natives remained in their settlements. So Mexico had some exceptions, but let me get that in Deuteronomy 28 and 32, right?
I was going to say that.
Because it says the geographical displacement of the enslaved and breakup of communities and family units. It's the same thing. 400 years. Get 400? We did 400.
Son?
We did
book
400.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
All right, so it says the displacement of the enslaved and the breakup of communities and family units. So they broke that up, and they were like, well, you know what? You would have, let me tell you, what despair it is to be in, that your only hope is to accept slavery and then hope that at least you could be enslaved with your children and your spouse and your brothers and your sisters. Because that's what was going on. We had it in our minds that, like, listen, you know what? As long as we're together. But to them just take your children, to take your spouse into some form of slavery and you never see them again.
Right.
And in all that anger and in all that might, because we were mighty, you had no might in your hand to do anything about it. Bro, that's maddening. You talk about the frustration now that sometimes you have when you can't get justice. I can only imagine in those moments.
When you knew there was none coming.
Read it. That's despair, bro. It's hard to have hope and stuff like that.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
It says the eyes shall look and fail. That's that despair. That you're like, man, I can't even imagine. Like how humiliating, how degrading.
Yep.
That especially as a man, that you're supposed to look out for your family, right? And this wasn't like a metrosexual, an effeminized man of the year 2020. These were warriors that knew and had their machismo of what it was to care and provide for your family.
Right.
And for that to be taken from you, that you had, I mean, sometimes you got to sit and marinate on these curses, man. And I think it comes out so much and so often that I don't think we go back to them enough to really reflect on it. And you got no might in your hand, because I'm thinking about, like, my gosh, I would go insane, I think. I don't know how. And then they wonder why Ephraim all jacked up in the head.
Yeah, right.
Because Ephraim known to be crazy. We all messed up because of the atrocities done unto us. Come on, read.
And there shall be no might in thine hand.
No might in your hand. Even though you are mighty, no might in your hand to retrieve and reclaim your children. That in that verse?
Yes, sir.
So it says the abolition of the Encomienda in 1542 marks the first major movement towards the abolition of slavery in the Western world. Nevertheless, coerced labor continued in other forms through the Spanish colonies.
Yeah, like Jim Crow laws. Everything.
Yeah, well,
I mean the equivalent.
Right. So then you have this other thing that came about. All right. And this is called the Repartimiento. And this is what came after the Encomiendas.
So that's like the black codes for the Northern Kingdom right there.
Yeah. This is what came after. So
I was say it sounds pretty
Yeah,
refreshing.
bro.
It sounds pretty refreshing.
Pause.
Right. Pause for the cause.
the Repartimiento, or distribution, partition, or division, was a colonial labor system imposed upon the indigenous population of Spanish America and the Philippines. In concept, it was similar to the other tribute labor systems, such as the mitad of the Inca Empire or the corvée of the Ancien Régime France. That's, I guess, French. But it was, they failed to mention the Encomienda system. Notice they tried to say, oh, it was the way the Incas did stuff. Through the pueblos de indios, the Amerindians were drafted work for cycles of weeks, months, or years on farms and mines and workshops and public projects. So they were nicer because now you went cycling. You got cross-trained in slavery, basically. So and you basically went on assignment for a little bit. So they gave you some leave, right? So they loosened it up a little, but you still had to be under this system, right? It says, with the new laws of 1542, the new laws is what abolished the encomiendas, just like slavery was abolished, right, in the United States, and then the black codes came into place. This is the black codes. It says, with the new laws of 1542, the Repartimiento was instead to substitute the encomienda system. So it was a substitute. Just like the black codes was a substitute for slavery.
It was slavery rebranded.
Rebranded. Slavery by another name. Rebranded slavery, right? So it says to substitute the encomienda. That's like you close something down, and let's say you don't give it another name, you still want notoriety, so you call it the new, right? So it was like, so I don't know.
Under new management?
Right, under new management, or, you know, or like the new McDonald's, right, instead of the old. So this was the new encomienda.
Like, oh, that's the new.
It's the new. So it says the Repartimiento was instated to substitute the encomienda system that had come to be seen as abusive and promoting of unethical behavior. You think? The Spanish crown aimed to remove control of the indigenous population, now considered subjects of the crown, from the hands of the encomenderos. And I guarantee you it wasn't because they had compassion, is that the encomenderos were starting to do what the United States wound up doing, where the governors here said, F you, Britain, we're not going to pay tribute to you anymore. Yep. So this was their way. So same way Lincoln didn't want to free any of the slaves. The Spanish crown wasn't doing this to be nice to the slaves. They did this because the encomenderos were bucking up and saying, we're not going to send you taxes anymore. We're not going to. We here. You're all the way over there. What the hell are you going to do here?
You know how you would have been nice with the slaves? How about don't put them in slavery?
How about that? How about them apples?
That's how you know it's BS.
Because
all they did was repurpose what they were already doing.
I'll buy that for $1. That's exactly. They just repurposed it. So it says who have become a politically influential and wealthy class. They tell you read between the lines there. It says they wanted to take the control of them because they knew that was the source of the wealth. Whoever controlled the slaves controlled the area.
Because if that was really good business economics, right, and it made sense, they just would have put their own people in the Repartimiento.
Yeah. But it didn't work.
Nope.
Didn't work. They knew. So it said they had become a politically influential and wealthy class with the shift away from both the encomienda system and the enslavement of the native groups. The Repartimiento was not slavery, so they slay, in that the worker is not owned outright. So that's the only thing that is not slavery. Being free in various respects other than in the dispensation of his or her labor. So basically it was, you can go home to your family now at night, you can do all that, but you got to work. So your labor is slave labor. But I don't have as much dominion over you.
Yeah, right.
Same thing like the way the black codes were set up, where you still were forced to work for the whites.
All right, you were free, but you're not really free.
You're not really free. So now you're not in. You can go to your own house. You can go and do all this other stuff, right? but your labor is still slavery, and the work was intermittent. So okay, we'll give you some days off. Now it's not sun up to sundown. This is our version of the black codes. So, however, it created slavery-like conditions in certain areas. Really? Most notoriously in silver mines of 16th century Peru, under the draft labor system known as mita. Influenced in part by a similar draft labor system the Inca used, also called mita. In New Spain, the collapse of indigenous populations from conquest and disease led to a shift from the Encomienda system to pueblos de indios, as the Encomienda system no longer made economic sense since there were not enough Amerindians left. So this is what we've been talking about.
Killing them.
Yes, so they died. Remember, there was a large swath that went out because the plagues came upon them. What was left was worked so hard down to the bone that they died, and they needed more labor to keep up the production, of the gold and silver and precious jewels in the mines, right, along with crops and things like that, so that their greed can be satisfied, right? So it says they needed to consolidate labor, which they did in a process known as reducciones. The Encomienda system was replaced by two parallel yet separate republics. The República de Españoles included Spaniards who lived in Spanish cities and obeyed Spanish law. So these were your common Spanish folk, right? These were the ones who were granted rights as citizens. And the República de Indios included natives who resided in native communities, where native law and native authorities, as long as they did not contradict Spanish norms, prevailed. Reservations, projects, ghettos. You know what else that was? The same way we were under the Roman rule under the Herods.
That's right.
You can keep your things, and you can keep your things so long as it doesn't contradict Spanish norms.
Right, because in Acts, when Paul was going to be brought in front of, I forget who the Roman name is, he says, this has nothing to do with my law, so I'm not going to judge it.
Right.
Acts 20:21, I think.
So it says, as long as they did not contradict Spanish norms. So you had a Spanish republic, and you had that's like saying you have little Puerto Rico, right? And then you have little Spain or whatever it is. And it was that that segregation, but still with oppression, right? So it says that's what prevailed. It was in this second domain where the pueblos de indios resided. Amerindians who lived in the pueblos de indios, had ownership over their land, but deemed subjects to the Spanish crown, they had to pay tribute. That's the same thing that happened in black codes. So I'll give you an example of a simplified way in the black codes. So you could now own a field and plant cotton, right? And pick cotton, but you weren't allowed to gin it. And you had to go to the white man to gin it. And then they would charge you a higher rate to gin it versus anybody else to do it. You couldn't gin your own cotton. This was just one way under those things that they were able to maintain that control. So it wasn't an equal system as far as that goes. This is similar to what they did here, right? So it's going to break it down how it worked. It said, in practice, a conquistador, or later a Spanish settler or official, would be given and supervised a number of indigenous workers who would labor in farms or mines, or in the case of the Philippines, might also be assigned to the shipyards constructing the Manila galleons. This would come from Hispanic miners or agriculturalists putting in a weekly application for labor with the district magistrate or a special judge who is in charge of Repartimiento labor. So basically the only work they could get was for these people. They could not get their own work, own their own business that way. So it started to make them, see, this is how you take the chains off of people.
They're destroyed already.
You start to make it seem like they have a measure, like a modicum of control, but they don't. And it makes you feel like you're involved in the process and you're cared for. Sounds like democracy in America.
Absolutely. Yep.
Where you go out and you vote for these elected officials and hope that they're going to do some change for you, and they never do. Or if they do, it's just enough to keep you quiet and make you feel like you're all right. That's not a new thing. It's not a thing that's exclusive to African American. This is something that's an Israelite thing that they did It's a crafty council, like we read in the beginning, that they came up with to rule over us.
And you know what? Looking at it from another spiritual aspect, that's the Most High letting us loose.
Giving us just enough liberty.
Giving us just enough liberty to recognize.
To plant those seeds so that we can then be where we're at today.
Yep.
So it says adult males of the community whose turn it was to go were assembled by the jueces repartidores, the Amerindian governors of the Pueblo de Indios, and given to the Spanish official who would move them to a different area to do whatever labor was needed. Legally, these systems were not allowed to interfere with the Amerindians' own survival, with only 7 to 10% of the adult male population allowed to be assigned at any time. Do you know why it was such a precise number? Because they were trying to keep the labor. It wasn't that they didn't want to extinguish us for the sake of not extinguishing us.
Right.
They were trying to keep the labor. So they said, listen, we're only going to use 7 to 10% of the adult population at a time. That way, if they die in the mines, if they die in these treacherous conditions that we send them to, we can replenish them. Rather than have to buy more slaves and invest in more slaves.
It's about the money.
These Amerindians were paid wages for their labor, which they could then use to pay tribute to the crown. They were paid wages to then pay taxes. We'll give you money for these jobs and these conditions, and then you got to give them back to us. Native men working around 3 to 4 weeks a year could also be put to work by the local government in public works, such as harvest, mines, and infrastructure. Again, sounds like now. What's public works? Your civil service jobs that we do, right? Yeah, we'll make them policemen. We'll make them garbage men. We'll make them, local farmers, whatever it is, right? Mining specifically was a concern for the crown, as well as a Peruvian viceroy. Enacted by Don Francisco de Toledo, these mining drafts were brought in indigenous workers through this draft labor system to do back-breaking work. While there were attempts to guard against overwork, abuses of power and high quotas set by mine owners continued. What are you going to say?
That's what they do now.
Right.
That's what they do now.
Leading to both depopulation of the system of indigenous men, buying themselves out of the labor draft by paying their own curacas or employers. So it says the decline of it, the diminution of the number of natives in the Americas due to European disease, smallpox, influenza, measles, and typhus, to which the native populations had no resistance, as well as to desertion from the work fields, led to the substitution of the Encomienda system and the creation of privately owned farms and haciendas in New Spain. So now that's where you get the haciendas from. And that might sound familiar. Hacienda is just basically a plantation.
Yeah.
It's Spanish for plantation. So we were on plantations also.
That's a cut. There it is.
On plantations also. So it says, in order to evade these compulsory labor systems of Encomienda and Repartimiento, Amerindians left their pueblos de indios. This was a dangerous venture as it left them landless and without community. If an Amerindian left their pueblo, they would look for wage labor. Others signed contracts, asientos, for 6 months to a year, during which time the worker was required to be paid a salary and provide living quarters as well as religious services. In northern New Spain, this was a frequent occurrence. This area was not greatly populated, and because of this, it was harder for the Spanish to enforce reducciones, meaning they could not create pueblos de indios to pull repartimiento labor from. Northern New Spain had the most silver mines, and because repartimiento labor was unreliable, wage labor was the dominant form of labor used in New Spain. Although not ideal, the Spanish crown allowed this, as silver was their priority to trade with China after the Ming Dynasty made silver the only currency for internal taxation and external trade. So again, all this money, all this wealth that they tried to make off our backs. And then it talks about the capitalist development. So the Repartimiento, in the most part, replaced the Encomienda throughout the Viceroy of New Spain. By the beginning of the 17th century, in Peru, the Mita labor system prevailed because the Inca Empire had already established a centralized tribute system as well as a common identity, and already had experience with a rotational labor system from the Incan Mita. The decline of rotational draft labor in New Spain paved the way for one of the first capitalist societies in the world, as Amerindian laborers who left their pueblos de indios were landless and instead sold their labor to purchase food and housing. So they talk about capitalism was born here in the United States. It's telling you that it bred it there. Peru did not experience the same development because the Amerindians Indians remained landed for longer, having access to their own means of production. So that was...
In short, this man is the devil the Bible speaks of.
Yes.
That is right.
This man got to go. He's got to go.
Is this the man?
Is this the man?
Yeah, man. Yep. We'll probably go over the castas. I'm not on the Saturday show this week, so we could go over the castas next Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm going to hit the Young Lords and stuff. Saturday.
Good. Oh, that's good.
And the Brown Berets.
Yeah. Keep stuff we can maybe carry over, too, into some other stuff for the Wednesday.
Who knows? Things get hot. Who knows? We could be just rapid fire.
Nah, it's the power hour, so you're going to... There's always something left.
The power hour.
Power hour is always something left. To pick up.
You're right. There you
go. But we'll talk about the castas a little bit because we'll spend a little more time on that Jose and everything else, and breaking down the mixing and the confusion that people got with that, and we'll discuss that a little bit more detail also.
So, Case, how do you feel? You feel like equipped to go against someone that says that these aren't your brothers?
I think I have enough ammunition just from watching this.
That hesitation, bro. Send this brother to Tune the Timbales. Go play the piano, man.
Yeah.
Don't disclose my hidden identity.
Well, that's the show. Catch us on Saturdays, all right? We are on 11 a.m. Arizona time. We have that's the original power hour. That's the rapid fire. Boom, boom, bring it out, all right? Captain Point, I'm going to go over some good stuff, he says, with the Young Lords and Brown Berets.
And Black Panthers.
And the Black Panthers. Oh, he's going to bring it out. Also, we'll be on every Wednesday from 7 to 9 Arizona time. Presently, that's 9 to 11 Eastern time. Make your adjustments, whatever time zone you're in, so you can make sure you catch us. We are on our Facebook Live page. We definitely would appreciate the support there, all right? It's the Power Hour. Or at the Lost 144K, but the Power Hour, Native Latin and Black Biblical Topics. If you could give us a like and subscribe on the Facebook page. Also, we're on YouTube on the IUIC of Phoenix, IUIC Phoenix YouTube page. All right. Hey, we should probably post those links like on each one, right? So you should post a Facebook link in the YouTube chat feed. Mm-hmm. You should post a Facebook link. I'm talking to you, producer. You should post a Facebook link in the YouTube and the YouTube in the Facebook, so you can increase your subscribers and comments, all right? It helps a lot. We can continue to bring out these topics and this research, all right, for the edification of our people. Because remember, if they can continue to cast our bands asunder, they're gonna stay in control. So let's bring the brotherhood back together and make sure that we spread, like, share, and continue to support. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Any last words, anybody?
Shalom.
All right. With that, we say shalom.
Shalom.
Lego. Israel is back. We back. Israel is back. We got back. The nations running scared because Israel is back. All eyes on us because we keeping them laws. When the Lord will return, Babylon will fall. Precepts solid. We got them on lock. God's chosen people with Christ as our rock. Israel is back. We back. Israel is back. We back. You heathen, get ready for our whip.